point number 195. وَلَا نُفْرِطُ فِي حُبِّ أَحَدٍ مِّنْهُمْ. And we do not go beyond the limits in love of any one of them. And we do not go beyond the limits in love of any one of them. Shaykh Fawzan, hafidhullah, he said, Al-Ifrat, explaining this first word, that we do not have Ifrat. He said, Al-Ifrat means Al-Ghulu, going beyond the limits. We don't have Ifrat, we don't go beyond the limits. He said, meaning, we do not go beyond the due limits, we don't go to extremes in love of any one of them. As the Rafida Shia went beyond the limits in love of Ali radiyallahu anhu, as they claim, ala za'amihim. They claim, of course they claim, it's just a claim that they have. They claim to love Ali radiallahu anhu, and then they go beyond all limits in that love which they claim. The Shaykh said, as the Rafida, we don't do as the Rafida did in love of Ali radiallahu anhu, as they claim to have love. However, what is apparent is that they do not actually love him, nor do they love the Muslims in general. So they went beyond the limits about him, to the extent that some of them said that Ali is Allah. And this was in the time of Ali radiallahu anhu. So therefore he dug trenches for them, and he burnt them with fire, out of zeal and devotedness for Allah, the Mighty and Majestic. The Shaykh said, so al-ghulu, going beyond the limits, is prohibited, whether it be regarding the companions or anyone else. He, the one free of all imperfections, said, Ya ahl al-kitab la taghlu fi dinikum ghayr al-haqq. Surah Al-Ma'idah, the 5th surah, ayah 77, with the explanation, O people of the book, do not go beyond the bounds in your religion with other than the truth. He said, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Iyyakum wal ghulu, fa innama ahlaka man kana qablakumul ghulu. Beware of going beyond the limits. Beware of extremism, because those who came before you were destroyed by going beyond the due limits. In a footnote they mentioned this hadith is reported by Ahmad in his Musnad, and it's also reported by An-Nasa'i and Ibn Majah, and it's from a hadith of Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhuma. Hadith declared authentic by Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah. Shaykh Fawzan said, so we have love for the companions of Allah's Messenger alayhi salatu wassalam. However, we do not go beyond the due limits with regard to them, to the extent that we make them partners along with Allah, and that we call upon them or invoke them besides Allah. We don't do that, as is done by the Rafidah and the grave worshippers. For this is not love of the companions. I mean, this is what the Rafidah do and what the grave worshippers do. They call upon companions or others in their graves and say this is from our love for them. So Shaykh al-Fawzan said this is not from love of them. This is not love of the companions. He said, for love of them involves following them and taking them as a model to emulate, and asking for Allah's pleasure for them. وَالتَّرَضِّي عَنْهُمْ وَالتَّرَضِّي عَلَيْهِمْ, asking that Allah, radiyallahu anhum, may Allah be pleased with them. That is what love of the companions necessitates and involves. That we follow them, take them as a model to follow, and ask for Allah's pleasure upon them. Then At-Tahawi, rahimahullah, he continues with the next point here. Point number 196. وَلَا نَتَبَرَّأُ مِنْ أَحَدٍ مِّنْهُمْ, and we do not disown and free ourselves from any one of them. And we do not disown and free ourselves from any one of them. Shaykh al-Fawzan said, this contains an indication towards the Rafidah, again the Rafidah Shia, those who disassociate themselves from the companions, from the Sahaba, and in particular from Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman. Indeed, they declare many of the Sahaba, many of the companions, to be unbelievers. So this is from at-tafrit, falling short of what is required. I mean the opposite what came in the first point. The first point was that we don't have ifrat. We don't go beyond the limits, go to extremes with regard to love of the companions. And now in this point it's the other one, at-tafrit, opposite of ifrat, tafrit, falling below what is correct. So he said that the Rafida Shia, they free themselves from the companions, in particular Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman. Indeed, they declare many of them to be unbelievers. So he said, so this is from at-tafrit, falling short of what is required. So we do not fall short of what is required regarding love of them. Because at-tafrit, falling short, means to abandon having love of them. Then at-Tahawi, and of course all these points being small points, interconnected. So at-Tahawi brings a further point, rahimahullah. He said, وَنُبْغِضُ مَنْ يُبْغِضُهُمْ, and we hate whoever hates them. We have hatred for whoever has hatred for the companions, for the Sahaba. Shaykh al-Fawzan said, whoever has hatred for the Sahaba, for the companions, then he has hatred for the deen, he has hatred for the religion, because they are the ones who carried Islam, and they are the followers of the chosen messenger, alayhi salatu wassalam. So whoever hates them, then he has hated Islam. So this is a proof that these people do not have any iman in their hearts. So it contains a proof that they do not love Islam. Then At-Tahawi rahimahullah said, carrying on, وَبِغَيْرِ الْخَيْرِ يَذْكُرُهُمْ وَلَا نَذْكُرُهُمْ إِلَّا بِخَيْرٍ. So it's a point, and it carries on. It's like a continuation of the sentence. And we hate whoever hates them. And this point, 198, meaning, and whoever mentions them with other than good. Meaning, and we hate whoever mentions them with other than good. And we do not mention them except with good. So, and we hate whoever mentions them, the companions, with other than good. And we do not mention them except with good. Yarhamakallah. Shaykh Fawzan, Hafidhahullah, said, in accordance with what preceded. So it is not permissible to delve into the problems which occurred between them. I mean, those things which occurred between the companions, problems that occurred between them. He said, so it is not permissible to delve into problems which occurred between them. Rather, it is obligatory to withhold about that, and that they are not mentioned except with good. Obviously, when the Shaykh said, meaning in accordance with what preceded, meaning what we had last week, with regard to the fact that we do not enter into disputes that occurred between the companions. We don't delve into that, not even with the excuse that we only want to do it for research purposes. We don't even use an excuse like that. For whatever reason, we don't enter into those things. Rather, we keep our tongues safe with regard to them. Then, At-Tahawiyyah, rahimahullah, he continues with this point 199, وَحُبُّهُمْ دِينٌ وَإِيمَانٌ وَإِحْسَانٌ وَبُغْضُهُمْ كُفْرٌ وَنِفَاقٌ وَطُغْيَانٌ. And love of them, all these points referring to the companions, as-Sahaba, and love of them is religion, true faith, iman, and goodness. And hatred of them is unbelief, kufr, hypocrisy, nifaq, and transgression, tughyan. Shaykh Fawzan said, this is a tremendous principle. It is obligatory upon the Muslims to be aware of it. And it is having love for the Sahaba, having love for the companions, and giving them due respect. Because that is a part of Iman. That is a part of true faith. And hating them, or hating any one of them, is a part of kufr, a part of unbelief, and nifaq, and hypocrisy. Because loving them is a part of loving the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or as a further reason, and because loving them is a part of loving the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and having hatred for them is a part of having hatred for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.